Here's the secret most women overlook. You don't have to be loud to be unforgettable. In a world obsessed with doing the most, the woman who moves with quiet confidence, effortless grace, and calm self-respect commands attention without even trying. That's what we call subtle feminine class. And it's magnetic in a way that no filter, outfit, or overexertion could ever replicate. Welcome back to the channel, beautiful. Today we're talking about something that goes beyond beauty, beyond charm, and straight to the soul of feminine power. Because while everyone else is trying to be seen, the classy woman is felt. She doesn't chase, she doesn't overshare, she doesn't perform to be picked. And yet men notice her. The right men admire her, they remember her, long after she leaves the room. This video is your invitation to tap into that level of power, the kind that speaks before you do, and lingers long after you're gone. I'm sharing 5 timeless behaviors that high-value men instantly pick up on. These aren't tricks, they're not game, they're refinements, small shifts that change everything about how you're perceived. So if you're ready to stop trying harder and start standing taller, if you're ready to attract without chasing, and if you're ready to embody elegance that speaks louder than words, keep watching. Because the woman who leads with class, she doesn't compete, she captivates. There's a kind of confidence that turns heads, but not because it's loud, flashy, or demanding attention. It's the kind of presence that makes people pause, look, and wonder, who is she? Even if you've barely said a word. This is what I call soft confidence, and it's one of the most attractive qualities a woman can carry. Soft confidence isn't about trying to prove your worth. It's about knowing your worth, deeply, quietly, and unshakably. It's the kind of inner certainty that radiates through your energy, your posture, your words, and even your silence. And men notice it immediately. Unlike the kind of confidence that shouts, competes, or tries to dominate a room, soft confidence doesn't need to perform. It doesn't rely on validation. It doesn't try to convince anyone. It's rooted in self-trust, in the knowing that you belong wherever you are, without shrinking or showing off. Men are drawn to this energy because it feels stable. It feels grounded. It feels real. A woman who walks into a room with soft confidence doesn't need to dress a certain way to prove a point, doesn't need constant reassurance, and doesn't need to manipulate anyone into liking her. She's magnetic not because she tries, but because she's simply in. This energy shows up in the way you speak, slowly, clearly, intentionally. It shows up in the way you hold eye contact, not aggressively, but warmly, without fear. It's in the way you let a moment breathe, rather than rushing to fill the silence. It's in how you can sit with your own presence and still feel complete. And when you operate from that space, men feel it. They sense that they can't push you off center, that they can't use charm, games, or confusion to shake your foundation. Because you're not looking for anyone to define you. You already know who you are. This kind of woman doesn't beg to be chosen. She chooses herself first and always. And from that energy, she attracts partners who are grounded, secure, and ready to rise to her level. What's important to understand is this: soft confidence isn't about being passive or shy. It's about resting in your strength without needing to showcase it. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to prove it. You just live it. And this subtle power is unforgettable. A woman who embodies this kind of confidence is like a calm ocean, vast, beautiful, deep, and unbothered by surface level waves. And that's exactly what makes her irresistible to a man who's ready for depth, not drama. So if you've ever felt like you needed to be more seen, more loud, more perfect, to be noticed, let that go. Because soft confidence doesn't chase attention. It simply allows you to take up space, gracefully, effortlessly, and unapologetically. And trust me, he will notice. There's something undeniably magnetic about a woman who can hold her composure when things get tense, who doesn't unravel when the energy shifts, who doesn't lose her center when someone pushes her buttons. That quality is called grace under pressure, and it's one of the classiest, most attractive behaviors a woman can embody. Men notice it instantly, not because you're being passive, but because you're showing emotional maturity in a world that often glorifies emotional chaos. Grace under pressure is the ability to respond instead of react. It's the power to breathe, think, and choose elegance over impulsiveness when the situation tempts you to do the opposite. Most people panic when they're challenged. They lash out, they raise their voice, they become defensive. But the woman who stays calm, who keeps her voice steady, who holds eye contact with softness and strength, she immediately stands apart. because she shows that she's not controlled by the moment. She's anchored in herself. And here's what most women don't realize. When you stay graceful under stress, men view you differently. You become someone who's safe to open up to, someone who won't weaponize vulnerability, someone who won't spiral during disagreements, someone who can handle intensity without becoming it. That's powerful. Whether you're on a date, in a disagreement, or navigating a triggering situation, grace under pressure signals self-control. It shows emotional intelligence. It communicates that you're not just emotionally reactive, you're emotionally aware. That's rare, and it's incredibly attractive. This doesn't mean you suppress your feelings. It means you honor them with dignity. You can still speak up. You can still assert yourself, but you do it without losing your feminine softness. You can express hurt without yelling. You can set boundaries without being harsh. You can walk away without being dramatic. This kind of grace says, I don't need to win the moment because I've already mastered myself. And that's a level of composure that high-value men deeply respect and gravitate toward. They see it as emotional elegance, as someone who can be trusted, even in chaos, as someone who doesn't fold under pressure but rises above it with poise. What's even more beautiful about this energy is how healing it is to be around. You become a calming presence, someone who brings peace, not panic. And in a world full of noise, drama, and emotional volatility, a woman like that is unforgettable. She doesn't just attract attention, she invites So when things feel heavy, when emotions run high, when it would be easy to explode or shrink, remember this: your power isn't in how loud you are, it's in how centered you remain. That's the kind of strength that doesn't have to announce itself. It speaks through stillness, through presence, through control. And when a man witnesses that, grace, calm, and clarity under pressure, it leaves a mark he won't forget. There's something mesmerizing about a woman who speaks with intention, not to impress, not to dominate the room, but to connect, to express herself thoughtfully, and to leave a meaningful impression. That's the essence of intentional conversation with poise. And it's a behavior men notice, admire, and crave more of. We live in a world of fast talk, oversharing, and surface-level exchanges. But when a woman slows down, chooses her words carefully, listens deeply, and communicates with elegance, she immediately stands out. She becomes magnetic because what she says holds weight, and the way she says it, calm, measured, clear, feels both refreshing and powerful. Intentional conversation isn't about being overly serious or stiff. It's about being aware of your energy, your tone, your pace, and the purpose behind your words. It's speaking from clarity, not insecurity. It's choosing presence over performance. When you do that, you stop filling space just to be heard and start using your voice to be understood. Men are naturally drawn to women who make them feel seen and engaged. But that doesn't mean doing all the talking or trying to be clever. In fact, it's often the woman who knows when to pause, when to lean in, when to hold silence with confidence, who creates the deepest impact. There's a quiet power in not rushing your speech, not oversharing, and not using words to fill emotional gaps. That restraint, it's alluring. And it also shows self-respect, because when you speak with poise, you're not trying to force a connection. You're letting it unfold. You're allowing someone to come to you rather than chasing approval through constant talking or explaining. You're signaling emotional maturity, that you don't need to impress with noise. You impress with intention. This kind of presence also gives him space to show up fully. When you're composed, listening with curiosity, and speaking from your truth, he doesn't feel interrogated. He feels invited. He feels like he's in the presence of someone who doesn't just talk. She connects. Intentional conversation also means knowing when to step back. When not every question needs an answer. When letting a moment breathe can say more than words. That emotional intelligence, that inner stillness, it radiates a rare kind of beauty, the kind that doesn't age, doesn't fade, and doesn't need to be loud to be unforgettable. So whether it's a first date, a deep heart-to-heart, or just a casual moment, remember this: your words don't need to be many, they need to be felt. And when you speak with poise, purpose, and presence, he doesn't just hear you, he feels you, he remembers you. Because the woman who speaks less, but says more, is often the one he thinks about long after the conversation ends. There's nothing louder than a calm woman who knows her boundaries, not because she shouts them, but because she embodies them. And when it comes to what men notice and find deeply attractive, few things are more powerful than a woman who knows how to protect her peace without ever raising her voice. Boundaries don't have to be aggressive. In fact, the most powerful boundaries are the quiet ones. The ones you express through consistent action, not confrontation. Through silence, not drama. Through self-respect, not emotional chaos. A woman who sets calm, clear boundaries sends one undeniable message. I know who I am and I know what I deserve. And when you communicate that without needing to argue, plead, or over-explain, men feel it. It shifts the energy instantly. Because a boundary isn't a wall to keep love out. It's a filter to keep disrespect from getting in. When a man encounters a woman like this, he's met with something rare. He realizes she's not here to tolerate crumbs. She's not afraid to walk away. She won't engage in power struggles, passive aggression, or mind games. She doesn't threaten to leave. She simply doesn't stay where she isn't valued. And that energy, it commands respect. Most women are taught that being kind means being available, being understanding, being endlessly forgiving. But true kindness starts with self-respect. You teach people how to treat you not by what you say, but by what you allow, what you stop responding to, and what you no longer entertain. A calm boundary could be something as simple as not answering late-night texts from a man who only shows up when it's convenient. It could be walking away from a conversation that's turning toxic without needing to defend yourself. It could be taking space when your energy is being drained, not to punish, but to preserve. And here's the beauty in it. You don't have to announce your boundary. You don't have to post about them or prove anything. You just have to live them. When you do, men sense that being in your presence is a privilege, not an entitlement. They realize you're not looking for someone to complete you, you're already whole. They recognize that getting access to you requires emotional maturity, effort, and genuine respect. That doesn't scare the right man, it inspires him, because men of substance want a woman with standards, a woman who knows her limits, a woman who knows her limits, a woman who communicates with clarity instead of chaos. That kind of woman doesn't make threats. She simply has thresholds, and once they're crossed, she exits gracefully. No yelling, no warning, no begging. And in a world where emotional reactions are often mistaken for power, the woman who can calmly walk away from anything that threatens her peace holds real power. So if you're someone who struggled to set boundaries because you didn't want to seem rude, difficult, or too much, let this be your reminder. Your boundaries don't make you cold, they make you clear. And that clarity is what separates the woman who is played with from the woman who is respected and remembered. When you learn to say no, not with force, but with calm conviction, you don't lose love, you lose confusion. And in return, you gain peace, alignment, and the attention of a man who actually values who you are. That's the woman he can't forget. The one who knows her worth and never has to explain it. There's something undeniably radiant about a woman who carries herself with effortless self-respect. It's not loud. It's not performative. It doesn't demand attention. And yet it changes the way every room reacts to her presence. This kind of self-respect isn't forced, it flows. It's in how she walks, how she speaks, how she sets the tone wherever she goes. She's not trying to prove anything to anyone. She's simply aligned with her value, and it shows. Men notice this immediately because it's rare and it's powerful. You see, a woman with effortless self-respect doesn't seek permission to be herself. She knows she's enough even when she's not doing the most. She doesn't shrink to be liked. And she doesn't overextend to be chosen. She's not trying to impress anyone. She's just honoring herself, and that's what makes her impressive. There's a calm confidence in the way she shows up. She's not desperate for approval because she already approves of herself. She's not emotionally shaken by someone's absence because she's not defined by who stays or who walks away. She knows her value stays constant no matter how someone else chooses to see her. And that kind of woman, she commands a different level of treatment. Because when you carry yourself with self-respect, you silently teach people how to treat you. You communicate without saying a word that you won't tolerate crumbs, games, or emotional inconsistency. You create an energetic boundary that tells the world, I will not beg to be valued. That's not ego. That's alignment. That's integrity with yourself. And here's the beauty of it. This kind of energy isn't about being above anyone. It's not superiority. It's self-awareness. It's emotional maturity. It's knowing your standards and living by them without apology. This woman doesn't need to chase. She attracts. She doesn't need to compete. She simply is. She doesn't try to convince someone to choose her. She chooses herself every day, and whoever gets access to her life is meeting her where she already stands. That kind of self-respect is magnetic to men who are emotionally ready. It draws in those who are looking for something real, not something reactive. It speaks to their deepest desire to be in the presence of a woman who knows her worth, and who won't lower her frequency to be liked. And the best part, it's effortless, because it's not a performance. You don't have to force it. You don't have to rehearse it. You just have to stop abandoning yourself. The more you stay rooted in your truth, the more you trust your intuition, the more you honor your needs and say no when something doesn't feel right, the more your self-respect will begin to radiate without even trying, and he will feel it. He'll notice how you don't chase energy that isn't matching yours, how you're warm but not available to just anyone, how you're kind but not a pushover, how you're loving but never at the cost of your own peace. That is effortless self-respect. And it's the kind of glow no man can ignore. Because when a woman chooses herself, without resentment, without fear, and without ego, she becomes unforgettable. Not just for what she looks like, but for what she stands for. What makes a woman unforgettable isn't how perfectly she presents herself. It's the emotional imprint she leaves behind. The way her presence lingers in someone's mind, long after the conversation ends, long after the moment passes, sometimes long after she's gone. That's what these 5 behaviors do. They don't just make a man take notice. They make him feel. And it's the way you make a man feel that creates real, lasting emotional impact. Think about it. In a world where people are rushing, oversharing, overperforming, and constantly seeking validation, the woman who leads with quiet confidence, graceful strength, and clear self-respect doesn't just attract attention. She awakens something deeper. She reminds a man of what's rare, of what's real, of what can't be manufactured or faked. Soft confidence shows him what it's like to be around a woman who trusts herself, who doesn't need to dominate to be powerful. And that kind of presence makes him feel both safe and challenged in the best way. It calls him to rise, to lead, to be intentional, because he senses that this is a woman who won't shrink herself and who won't settle either. Grace under pressure shows him how emotional maturity looks and feels. When you're able to stay grounded in tense moments, you're communicating that your peace isn't fragile, that your center is rooted, that you can hold space, not just for your emotions, but for his too. That kind of woman feels like home, because she brings calm in a chaotic world. Intentional conversation opens the door for real connection, not surface-level small talk, not performance, but real, meaningful heart-to-heart communication. And when a man experiences that with you, when he feels seen, heard, and understood, you become more than just another pretty face. You become someone who feeds his mind and stirs his soul. Calm boundaries communicate your value more clearly than any speech ever could. They show that you're not afraid to say no, that your presence isn't up for negotiation, that you won't tolerate what drains you. And the man who is ready for something real, he'll meet you there. The man who's not, he'll disqualify himself. Either way, you win. And finally, effortless self-respect is the quiet frequency that carries through everything. It's what holds the rest together. When a woman respects herself deeply, naturally, and without needing to convince anyone else to do the same, she becomes magnetic in a way that no trend or tactic could replicate. She becomes a force, not by force, but by being rooted in her truth. That's what men remember. That's what leaves an imprint. That's what makes a woman irreplaceable. Not because she tried to be better than anyone else, not because she chased, begged, or proved, but because she honored herself, moment by moment, choice by choice, without apology. When you live in that energy, you don't just create attraction, you create impact. You don't just enter his life, you shift it. And even if things don't last forever, your presence will. He'll remember how you made him feel safe without being soft feminine, without being passive, clear without being cold. That's the beauty of high-class energy. It doesn't scream, it echoes. And the woman who lives this way, she doesn't chase validation. She becomes the standard. Elegance isn't something you do, it's something you become. And in the end, the most magnetic version of you will never come from performing, pretending, or perfecting every detail. It will come from a deep decision to simply embody who you truly are, with grace, depth, and self-respect. There's a difference between performing elegance and living it. Performance is external. It's curated, calculated, sometimes even exhausting. It's based on image, on doing what you think will earn approval. But embodiment, that's internal. That's effortless. That's rooted. It's when elegance isn't something you put on. It's something that naturally flows out of you because of who you've become. And that's what today's message is really about. The 5 behaviors we've explored aren't just tips to get noticed by a man. They're pillars for becoming the kind of woman who doesn't need to seek validation from anyone. Because when you embody soft confidence, emotional poise, intentional presence, and unwavering self-respect, you create a new standard for how the world, and especially men, engage with you. And the truth is, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being real and refining the parts of you that were once shaped by fear, insecurity, or past wounds. It's about rising above survival mode and stepping into your elegance, not as a performance, but as your birthright. Elegance is when you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It's when you stop overgiving just to feel worthy. It's when you stop chasing and start choosing peace, choosing alignment, choosing to walk in rooms like you belong, because you do. When you carry that energy, everything about how men respond to you changes. Not because you've manipulated a reaction, but because you've raised your frequency. You've become someone who attracts respect, devotion, and care, not through games, but through authenticity and grace. So if you take anything from this video, let it be this. Don't try to be elegant. Be still, be soft, be strong, be discerning. Let your energy speak before your words ever do. And stop trying to be what you think he wants, because the right man doesn't need a performance. He's looking for presence. And your presence, when it's grounded in truth, is already more than enough. You don't have to perform to be unforgettable. You just have to come home to yourself. Because the woman who embodies elegance isn't trying to be chosen. She is and she never has to prove it. Thank you for watching. And remember, you're not here to impress. You're here to express the fullness of who you are. And when you do that, you'll never chase love again. Love will recognize you.